Good evening, LinkedIn. Good evening, YouTube. Happy Women's Day. So, guys, today we are going to talk about an interesting topic. But before that, I'm going to tell you a bit about myself. I've been into real estate, corporate real estate for last 15 years, and my role has been to provide office spaces and co-working spaces to corporates. There has been always a point that our offices is my workspace friendly enough to accommodate or welcome all the genders? This is the topic that we are going to talk about today. And we have not one, not two, but we are privileged and honored with three design experts today. So we welcome them on stage. So to start with, we have Miss Sangeeta. Hi, Miss Sangeeta.
Hi, hi everybody.
We have Miss Amruta. Uh, you're on mute, Amruta ji.
So sorry. Hi everyone. Good evening.
Yes. And we have Miss Yashasvi.
Hello everyone. Good evening.
So happy Women's Day, all of you. And thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for
Thank you.
sharing the
Thank you.
screen with me today. It's been an honor to have you on board with us. So to start with, I would like to point out, Sangeeta ji, that we Indians have a guideline of a workspace design, whether it comes to washroom ratio or having a feeding room or a bit of daycare center within the office space. How do you feel in your 35 years of experience? Have you seen an office space who has particularly been designed keeping both the genders in mind, or you still feel that there is a lot of improvement required?
Uh, First of all, welcome to all the attendees, and it's very lovely of Rakesh ji to take this initiative and open up this subject, which is so close to everybody's heart and which is often ignored. Uh, Coming back to the question Rakesh ji has asked, I think there is a lot of scope to improve in the current norms of which are being followed for office design, because most of the norms, if you say, they are little of the 1993 and all, and nowadays situation is very different. We have a very high percentage of women workers, and as a matter of fact, even the definition of workplace, I mean, it need not be just corporate office, but we have women working on traffic signals, we have women working in petrol pumps, we have women working from home.
Hmm.
So the definition of workplace is actually quite different,
Correct.
and we need to provide for certain things. If the women have to have a productive day at the work, and be more productive in their output and be happy as well, I think that's managing your personal happiness with your professional output is also equally required.
Right.
So
Right.
that's in a nutshell, that a lot of improvement and scope for improvement is certainly there.
Sure. Sure. So I'm quoting this from the Indian Standard 1172 1993, as you said, the washroom ratio guideline is mentioned as one washroom for every 25 women working within the office space. So my question now to Miss Amruta is that, ma'am, do you see any admin managers or facility managers really struggling to find this kind of a ratio or stretching upon this ratio and saying that we really want to follow the guidelines, or do they really care about what my real estate cost is and how I can fit in more people in less real estate?
Uh, to be fair, I think nowadays we are seeing a lot of improvement. But yes, we are not yet there. There is a lot
Hmm.
which needs to be taken care for. The ratio should, on an average, if you see in our design language, is 10 to 15 women or person for one washroom. So in
Correct.
case if the strength is like 100, then I need at least 5 to 6 on an average washroom ratio. But
Yeah.
that is not 100% right. We do not get that facility. For real estate being such a hyped thing in Bombay, Bombay is the major, I think, one of
Mm.
the cities where it's sky high rates for every real estate, even if it's the co-working space. So it's difficult for them to do a justice to it. But
Mm.
what I believe is the ratio is the equality on that ratio should be at least taken care of. It's a very important that if there are X number of urinals and a WC put together in a toilet for men, then the equal number should be also considered for women. That's
True.
one easy way to look at it. I'm not saying that every time you have to have a washroom equality, but at least it should be a mindset which needs to start changing. Um, so the second point, I believe it does has changed a lot. People have started designing because I believe there are certain work areas where the women are more compared to men. You can talk
Mm.
about design itself. I mean, as an interior
Mhm.
designer, I think we are. You will see more women, girls getting education in interiors rather than the men. So it's somewhere we need to be little biased towards that and get the feminine part little more value to it. So I believe we are not completely there, but yes, we can be.
Okay. So, Yashasvi, have you faced any such challenge in terms of the basic design principles when it comes to washrooms or feeding room or having a nap area for women inside an office space with your clients?
Oh, definitely, definitely. So it's very difficult to convince client, especially in Mumbai,
Hmm.
where the real estate cost is
Okay.
so high, to have more breakout areas like you suggested, nap rooms. And this is not just for women, but nap rooms is something, break rooms is something that
Hmm.
is for everyone. So it's
True.
very difficult to convince that. And you brought up the concept of feeding rooms. So creche is something that is. I haven't seen personally a crash inside a office space or even in an IT complex or something like that. Of course, it is a challenge to convince clients on that part, but there are improvements like Sangeeta ji
Hmm.
and Amruta mentioned that people are opening up to these ideas.
Right.
Definitely.
Right. Okay. So back to
I want to
Sangeeta
add
ji.
something here.
Yeah, sure, sure, Amrita ji.
So there is in Andheri, there is a big office space which is taken up by Hindustan Unilever, and
Okay.
they have a play area, like a section where the mommies can bring in their kids, and there is a creche who takes care for takes care of the kids for the mommies. So it's a very beautiful gesture done by them. It shows that we value the person rather than she being only a woman and or she being someone else. It's about that person, that even though if she's a mommy, she's supposed to work, she's needed in that company. So that's something which is very beautifully done, and I think it should be adopted by everyone, like at least the 90% of the company should.
Yeah, at least the
Absolutely.
large corporates should at least adopt this. And I would
Yes.
also like to bring an example of Standard Chartered building at BKC.
Hmm.
So Standard Chartered occupies 7 floors at Parini Crescenzo. They have their own daycare center. They have their own, you know, a small little nap room and a medical room also present for their employees. So that really, brings me a feeling that they care for their employees as a whole, and
Yes.
it gives me an idea
Correct.
that I really want to work with that kind of an organization.
Yes.
Yes. In fact, the Postal Department of India last year they had launched few creche for the employees of postal departments at Mumbai itself. So Dadar, Chembur, I think Virar and Parel,
Hmm.
some of these places. So it happened last year. Let's see how far it goes.
So interestingly, in 2013, Supreme Court also had a case represented by women lawyers, and the decision was taken by Supreme Court to establish daycare centers inside every court, every district session court and high court for the women lawyers. Uh, However, I've not seen it getting implemented for now, but yeah. Good. So moving on, my next topic would be the safety and security for women. So I'm again inviting Miss Sangeeta to help us out. If we have to ensure privacy of workspace and security of the women inside the workspace or the building, how should we go about and design our workspaces?
Uh, a very important question, because safety is something which is always at the back of the mind of a woman. And be it work or be it a public area, or be it in your own residential complex, a woman is always going to think safety before doing anything.
Right.
So there are few examples I can share, like in some car parking areas, which are like large plates, floor plates of public buildings or commercial buildings, and the lighting is sensor driven. So if there is a
Yeah.
movement of a human being, then the lights will come on. So for a woman, it may feel a little intimidating because she is walking through the pools of light, but all around her it's just complete darkness. So that can be a unique psychological feeling of being unsafe, and
Mm,
genuinely also it could be an unsafe situation.
right.
CCTV cameras, uh, proper well lit lighting, posting of security guards. Some issues can be like resolved with operations. I remember when my daughter used to work with a MNC, PwC actually, and when
Mm.
she used to leave late, uh, there will always be a call from the security office of the office that has she reached home. You know, they used to
Oh,
note
nice.
down the cab number and everything. Yeah, so that made her feel very safe. So some issues are through your infrastructure you build, some issues you build through your operational practices of managing the office space. One other
Mm,
interesting fact is that women most of the times don't feel very safe when they are in small enclosed spaces. So open plan offices or cubicles which give you a visibility sightline into spaces beyond is something where a woman feels more safe, because probably she can see around her that there is no danger. So that is something also to be thought about when you are doing the planning. So these are a few areas where safety can be considered for women a little differently, because I think really speaking, when you are leasing, when you're building an office space and when you are leasing it, you don't know which who is going to take the place. You don't know
mm,
whether it's going to be how a company with 100 50% men to women, or you don't know the a percentage. So
mm,
basically, when you, as a developer, when you are going to design the office building, you are going to try and follow the norms and you are going to try your level best. So really speaking, the issue has to be driven by the people, individual companies who take the offices, for them to do the interiors. And if they plan for some of these aspects at the planning level itself, like what Yashasvi and Amrita were saying, like feeding areas, or of course nap room or breakout areas, yes, those can be very important. In fact, creche, if I'm not mistaken, is a mandatory requirement if your number of women employees is exceeds a certain
Yes.
number now. So
Yes.
either in fact the government is very particular that in a day a woman is permitted 4 visits to the creche, because the creche need not be in your campus, but it can be a reasonable distance within the locality. So 4 visits are permitted to a woman to check on your child, or a time to rest also is permitted to a woman. Now feeding area is something which is not captured in this, but I think by now all of us know that medically if you maximize the breastfeeding, then the child has a better chance of health.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
whereas our women start working after 4 months, 6 months of delivery, and you should of course provide a feeding area for breastfeeding. And I think many companies are taking note of all these points, and trying to plan for these things, because everybody wants good employees, and women do make great employees.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I'll quote an example of another office space. I used to work with Dextrous. Dextrous is a co-working space. They really created a very nice and comfortable shower room cum feeding room inside their office space. And because of that, we used to have more women entrepreneurs taking up our co-working spaces, and they used to feel more comfortable interacting with us. We actually created a very vibrant community out of that, and that was one of our USP when we used to sell it or compare it with other co-working spaces. So, do you think that such common rooms can also be made if there's a space constraint, like you can have shower come feeding room, or some medical come nap room, something like that?
Yes,
So,
certainly. I think a nap room is something which even men, let's not call it a nap room, but like a breakaway area, which is a little more private. And people can, all men as well as women can go there just for relaxing your mind for some time.
hmm,
So I think that's a good practice. And if a woman needs it during certain time of the month, and all well and good. I mean, she can go there and rest for a while, and then come back refreshed in the work.
okay.
Yeah, I
So,
mean,
my
one good point is that nowadays a lot of co-working space are taking care of all of these things. So there is always a wellness room, which is kept aside. It's like a small room, but it has a comfortable sofa. It's got little mat or something, so it can be a place where they can do their rituals, cultural rituals. If anyone
hmm,
wants to
hmm,
pray or worship, or that can be done. They can relax. They do not have to, I mean, they can sit, even sit for that matter, in a comfortable manner, probably folded their feet and sitting, just giving them that break what they need. And they do not have to use the washroom for that. There is a space given for it. It's absolutely important, that women get that that small space, at least a room which is not considered.
okay. So, Amritaji, speaking of cultural, sensitivity, you mentioned about the prayer room or a secluded room. Uh, how do you feel that how should this kind of a room be designed so that every culture sensitive women or every culture sensitive man is more comfortable using that particular room?
So as I said, that it doesn't have to be a very big space. It just has to be probably a space which is good enough to accommodate two or three cubicles. It's that much area. It's not too big. You just have to understand what kind of what culture background the employees can come from. If we want to, someone wants to worship namaz, then they need the floor space. If someone wants
Hmm.
to sit chant, then they need a sofa or a comfortable chair to sit around. If they want to not nap, but at least like lay down, have a comfortable, like a sofa or something which is good enough for accommodating them for some time. Of course, it can't be somewhere where you will go for a nap, but it has to be like 15 minutes or 20 minutes breakout space, which needs to be in that, like that should be the comfort place. So this is, I'm not asking for an entire room, but probably a section, which is a small space, but yes, a cozy one, maybe with good lighting and good decor on the wall. Maybe an opportunity for us to dim the space. It should not be a completely dark, like, for example, I have visited a co-working space, and they do have a wellness room, but they either have it completely lit, how a working co-working will be, or they have
Hmm.
it completely lights off. It's not something which I think I'll be comfortable with, because it's a small room. It's not a very I'm not usually going to that room, so I can't go into a space which is with pitch darkness. I need to have somewhere where I will adjust it to my sensitivity. That should be taken care of. I think that was not taken care at that level, and if I would have designed, then I think I would have taken care of that. Yeah.
So can we say that ideally this room should be window facing so that a bit of light can
You
come
can say
or
that.
fall through it?
Window facing, yes. Window facing will be lovely, but I'm not so sure if that is something which anyone will do, because window facings are very, very important spaces. So rather than
Hmm.
giving it to a wellness room, maybe anything in the corner, maybe
Hmm.
no windows is also fine, but the correct mood lighting, the correct comfortable
Atmosphere.
yes,
Hmm.
atmosphere
Hmm.
is absolutely important. I think it is important for everyone, men, women, everyone. You need to get out of that walking space and relax for 2 seconds. I mean, nowadays the only relaxation what we have is our phones. We just go through reels, go through certain things on internet. So that is not what relaxation is. Relaxation is going to a space where there is no human contact, and you're only with yourself, and
Hmm.
you're in that peace, you're in that own zone, I will say.
Yeah.
So that is
Yeah.
important.
Correct. And like
Okay.
Amrita rightly said, co-working spaces has given that opportunity because they have a lot of different work areas as well. Like you can sit with your legs folded, you can stand and work, you can sit on a sofa and work, you can sit in the garden and work, which is really good in terms of the co-working spaces, creating these opportunities, even for break rooms and even for work areas.
Okay. So, Yashasvi, you spoke about having an atmosphere which is welcoming, right? So, I would rather ask this question to individually every one of you, starting with Yashasvi. What makes you feel comfortable inside an office space? What are the elements that make you feel comfortable?
Okay, so first of all, if I'm talking from a women's point of view,
Hmm.
it shouldn't be claustrophobic. I shouldn't feel like I'm being pried upon, or it shouldn't feel intimidated. Open spaces are quite nice, but too open is also something that is very
Hmm.
difficult to tackle because one would feel lost. And this is for both, all kinds of people. Like if the place is too open, the vast office is too open, it can be intimidating in that way. And atmosphere in terms of safety and security, if we come back to the washrooms, so washrooms, it's okay to provide washrooms, but they should be maintained as well, because for women, that is also a safety concern. If the washrooms are not well maintained,
Hygiene.
of course
Okay.
it's a big problem. Of course, in bigger offices and white collar jobs, it's very much possible. But in smaller shops, organic markets, which have just a few hundred square meter shops, all those areas where women have to use public toilets, the washroom becomes a major concern. Like that adds to a atmosphere which is not conducive for anybody
Hmm.
to work.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So, Sangeeta ji, how about you? What makes you feel comfortable inside an office space?
I think I agree with Yashasvi. Open plan office, which still provides you a little bit of privacy, but sightlines everywhere. A lot of plants and a lot of sunlight will really create a very happy
Hmm.
atmosphere for men as well as women.
Hmm.
Uh, these breakout areas would be a great help because you can reduce your stress, or you can just change your posture, take a stroll around, and become little better healthy. uh, you can have a multi-purpose room, like where you can either, or a gym with special timing for men and women, or commonly shared gym facility, meditation room. But the thing is, in most of the smaller offices, all these things are not possible. Every inch of the space matters, and you are practically sitting literally side by side, so that if you want to get up and go, you will have to say to the person next to you, please excuse me, I'm going out. So those things make women very uncomfortable. um, the hygiene of washrooms, it's very important, not only in the operational places, but what about construction sites? When we
mm,
go to construction sites, we don't have a space. Most of the time we do not have a separate washroom for women. It is a horrendous situation because that washroom is being shared by men, and sometimes even workers, and it's just terrible. I remember instances when we are going to the construction site, and if I have to use the washroom, I will excuse myself from the meeting, I will take a rig, go to a washroom
oh,
which is nearest, and then come back again to the meeting. So these are real time instances. Construction industry is something which is grown so fast, and nowadays there are so many women architects and women in business roles who are visiting sites, that washrooms for them is a very necessary thing. Public washrooms for women are really a great nuisance as well as the hygiene is concerned. I mean, they are really terrible. So that's something which is not connected with the offices, but still it's an infrastructure being provided by the municipality and government, and they should make it their business to clean it. Keep all the washrooms clean.
true.
Apart from that, I think general pleasant atmosphere is what a woman will feel happy about. And the 2 3 times when she needs a little more help is, of course, when she is pregnant, and secondly when she when she is on maternity leave, and when she is rejoining, and lastly when there is some emergency health related or some kind of emergency at home which needs her to focus on her kid, or some elderly in-law or parent or things like that. So these are the times when I have seen with men, these things don't make so much of a difference, but for a woman's psyche, it makes a tremendous difference. So, if in that time the organization can support her with the infrastructure and the good HR policies, I think it will just, it is not just sufficient to provide infrastructure, but it has to be balanced by a very sound HR policies. And then women will feel supported throughout, their working life. That's what I
Okay.
think.
Okay. Okay. So, Amritaji, as per you, what is your ideal workspace design? How would, if you were to design an office space for yourself, how would you do that? What all things would you include?
See, being a designer, I get to get a lot of creative ideas. I will love to have open windows, huge windows. I know Bombay doesn't give you the permission to have greenery outside your window. But yes, I can at least bring the outside in. I can have a lot of planters and maybe I know it takes a lot of taking care of them, but yes, it's very, very important that I have good oxygen in my office. I think COVID has taught us that, so let's stick to it. And I believe for me, it's important that I have a space dedicated to me. That's
Hmm.
something which is missing right now. We compromise, even as designers, we end up eating up little inches. Ki chalo, 2.5 feet nahi mil raha hai, let's compromise on 3 inches. We'll cut down on that space. It's okay, we'll manage. Oh, that is something which, of course, because we work for clientele, it happens. But yes, and if I have to design it for myself, I'll make sure that I have more space than the average standard space, so that when you're walking around it, you have the comfort that nobody is going to push my chair. I'm not going to be adjusting myself for anyone else.
Hmm. Hmm.
The
Hmm.
standard working desk is something which is very, very mandated. And if it is not being given to a particular person, then I think it's criminal. So that's something which I will make sure it's taken care of. I think the when we talk about hygiene, it's about a lot of small things which needs to be taken care of, like when we are talking about women washrooms, there has to be sanitary napkins kept for them, there has to be good amount of toilet papers to be them so that they can maintain the hygiene. The dustbins, and so there are so many little things which can be taken care of, and I think that is something which is missing in our level of corporate offices.
Hmm.
As I mentioned, that co-working has started coming up with a lot of these little things, like if we say, if you like we work in AWFIs, I've seen them providing all of these facilities for
Mm,
the women, and I think it's a very good initiative taken by them. So
true.
these are some things which I think is very standard and mandate. We do ignore them, but yes, as I think designers, we can make the change now. We can try and educate the real estate clientels to make sure that it's done in a certain manner.
Okay. So coming to Yashasvi, Yashasvi, how do you ensure that within the design you bring about the productivity elements for women within your design? If you can explain us or give us some example.
Okay. So let's start with ergonomics. Like Amrita mentioned, there's a standard size to a table below which you should not have your space, because you need that much space to work. So a meter by say 2 feet wide table is something that is a minimum that should be provided. And
Okay.
it's the space should not be very claustrophobic where you're working, so that your hands while working do not touch each other, they do not disturb each other. Of course, open offices are really good, but there should be some amount of privacy also, some barriers between the tables, ensuring that you do not disturb each other. That is one. And because nowadays open offices are a big concept, I encourage my clients to go for tables which can be adjusted, height adjusted, so that
Okay.
because women ergonomics are quite different from the
Different.
standard table sizes, so you can easily adjust the height of the table, height of the chair. Even if you want to stand and work, you can do something like that, so that gives you freedom to work as and when possible. Any which ways, we are working since 9 in the mornings to say 6 7 in the evening, so you cannot be sitting, like you cannot be at one single position and working throughout. So ensuring that is very very important. And I generally don't like those call center type arrangements where you have to cross 10 co-workers and go. That can also be a difficult situation for women, just like Sangeeta ji brought it up. You have to cross 10 people and go, even if you want to use a washroom or you just want to take a call, you have to disturb everybody. And in an open plan, your all eyes are on you if you are in the middle of the day getting up and leaving your space. So that can become a very intimidating factor for women, especially a bit older generation, because I feel the newer generation are more used to working together compared to the like both the genders and like all types of people. But could be a big factor for, especially for women who have quit work and then rejoined after say after they have had their kids, or after they want their families have settled down and something like that. So for them it could be a huge factor, so certain small things should be definitely taken into consideration,
Okay.
as well as tables having a courtesy board, because anybody should be able
Mm,
to wear whatever they want, so something that hides your legs, so that
mm, mm.
it's just
Interesting.
it's a courtesy that should be followed. Yeah,
Interesting.
some
So
of these things.
we are actually understanding the design perspective of furnitures also, and not really sticking to the workspace. So Sangeeta ji, my question here is glass partition versus covered partition. What should we prefer?
Uh, Actually, very honestly, once you start working, your attention is not on the partition, you know. So it really doesn't matter. But at the first instance, when you enter, if everything is visible, the way Yashasvi was saying, then also you feel little unsettled.
Hmm.
And if there is total closed partition, then also you feel little claustrophobic because small spaces and all. So you have to
Okay.
manage it, within the space and considering how much number of staff is required to sit, occupy, and all these things. But I just what Yashasvi was mentioning is so true, because uh, I saw a very interesting YouTube video on this actually, where I mean, this girl in the office, and she has to ask one of her colleague for to borrow a sanitary napkin because she forgot hers. And it
Okay.
is so awkward a moment, or even when you take that napkin from your purse, if a male colleague happens to see, you feel very awkward. So all women present would certainly agree with me. This YouTube video was like a new thing because she doesn't feel awkward. She goes and she asks openly to the girl, and all the male colleagues start mocking her, or giving her eyes. And so it was a very good film made on a very sensitive subject. That
Mm,
subject that
mm,
I'm highlighting, that sometimes as I mean, I'm not saying that as women, you need to give concessions or anything. No, I mean everybody wins by their merit in today's world. But God has made women differently, and
true.
woman body is different, ergonomics is different, heights are different, what appeals to her aesthetically is different, the way she communicates is different, and how men react are also different. As an average, I'm saying, individually, if you take case to case, probably some woman can see as good as a man in all aspects. But average, when you say, there are these moments where if your design is done sensitively enough so that she has the privacy to open her purse and take a pouch and go without crossing 10 colleagues, it will make her feel more comfortable. And if she has a breakout room where she can go and rest for a while and then come and join, it will not only help her, but it will also help the male colleagues to go and take a break from the stress of the day, because mental wellness and mental health is equally important. So I think
So
these are
can
the
we
2 points.
can we install a sanitary pad case box inside women washroom? Would that be
for, for
great
bigger
for?
offices, even shopping malls, and
Yeah.
all these bigger spaces, the developers do install these sanitary napkin dispensers. And in smaller offices, of course, as you can just have it ready on demand. uh,
Mm,
it's not really a big deal, but it just feels so much of a it can make a very big difference to a woman who is in need. you know she will have to
sure.
leave her office, go
Yeah.
out, look for a chemist and all these things. So this is, just the same way you keep a first aid kit in any office,
Yes.
a set
Yes.
of sanitary napkins can
It
be
should
kept
be a mandate of a first aid
Yeah.
kit. I mean, we really need
yeah.
to educate everyone that it's as important as a band-aid or a soframycin or anything. It's as important as that, because every other woman at a in a month will have that um, time of the day, and then she will need it. So it's important. Nowadays, I think we women only help each other with our
Mm,
if we've got an extra in our pocket, but it's important that we also as organizations start looking at it as a important aspect. I
yeah.
think that is one thing which will give us the like a mental satisfaction, mental assurance that yes, we are taken care of. I think that will empower us to come to work every day more.
Mm,
That is
mm.
something which is very important.
Okay. So, Amritaji, we spoke about having the space to ourselves in bits and pieces. Yashasvi also mentioned that the desk size should be a meter, by 2 feet. So, I wanted to understand from you, is there a standard ideal space per square feet that the workspaces, the office spaces should have?
uh,
I
on a
mean, what
desk.
is considered, yeah, what is considered the best, what is considered like should be, and what is considered not should be, if you can give us some idea
So
about
when we talk about desk sizes, furnitures, if we talk about, then I think desk is one of the basic amenity what a company has to give to an employee. And the desk size in our ergonomics standard is 750. That's 2.5 feet. That's the standard. Now if
it?
you go for a executive level, it always keeps on increasing, because then the size of the desk defines the position that person is. It's always like that. If you go to any executive or a
Mm,
manager's room, the desk size will always be bigger,
is
bigger,
more.
bigger, bigger. Yes. So that in our industry defines the position of that particular person. But we, in that doing that, we always forget that a standard works desk has to have a minimum size to it. It cannot go lesser than that. 750, that's 2 feet 6 inches, is a standard size. but on an average, or 3 feet, sorry, more than 3 feet, that's 3.6 or maybe 4 feet for that matter, 1200 mm, is something which is very standard, which needs to be followed. It also gives me a space where I can have a small credential for credenza for my daily products. I can lock it out. It can be my
Hmm.
personal locker space, which
Yeah.
is nowadays compromised. We don't have that. We always have tables which are right next to each other, and you only have space to put your leg or the chair inside. So that is something which is needs to be taken care of. Um, and I think, as I said, that in between two chairs, it's there is a minimum of 6 feet which is needed. Like one chair will need 3 feet for it to come back, pull back a person to get out of the chair without banging the person who's sitting right next to or right behind him. But that is again compromised to a 5 feet or a 5.5 feet, which is not standard. So this is a standard which is compromised in nowadays industry, which needs to be avoided. We need to stick to a standard which has been there since generations, and I think there is a scientific explanation to on to why and what is a reason we need that
Hmm.
certain
Hmm.
distance
Hmm.
and stuff like that, which I think is getting compromised, which needs to be avoided. And I
Okay.
think we, as designers and architects, that's the basic which is being taught to us in colleges. So every designer, every architect will know the standards of it. So it's not that we need to go anywhere and search in books. It's the basic what knowledge we start our academics with. So we just have to listen to the designers. That's what we can do.
Hmm. Okay, so I'm coming back to Sangeeta ji. Sangeeta ji, we spoke about the workspaces, not only office spaces. There are restaurants, there are women working on the traffic signal as well. So I wanted to ask you, if a restaurant or a retail shop has to make their workspace inclusive for women, how can they really make it? Because as a retailer, I want to ensure that maximum of my space goes to the products, and only less of the space goes to the back office. So of course it involves more of my real estate capitalization as well. So if you can give me some guidelines, our audience would be happy to know.
So basically, what happens, Rakesh, is when it comes to retailers, only very large retailers like anchor stores provide
Hmm.
washrooms within their own
Within
premises
the-
because they are like 20, 30,000 square feet. The rest of the retailers depend on the mall facilities for the customer's convenience, as well as the mall typically has a staff washroom area as well. So that is taken care of by the mall. Well, as far as most malls, good malls in our country are concerned, the washrooms are properly planned. There
Hmm.
are sanitary napkin dispensers, there are drinking water, there is a sewing kit, there is a nappy changing unit, there is usually a breastfeeding area with, unisex breastfeeding area, but it's a unisex washroom also because sometimes when you have an infant, the whole family enters the washroom, especially if it's a nuclear young family. So all these things nowadays, the good, all good malls, we follow all these facilities. But even when it comes to anchor stores, they plan their customer washrooms very nicely, and they don't lag behind in any of these amenities for their own customers. When it comes to restaurants,
Hmm.
there are few restaurants where washrooms are needed. So we see in some restaurant, depending on brand to brand, it could be like a unisex washroom. Like MACD sometimes provides unisex washrooms. Uh, there are pubs and discos where you have different washrooms for men and women, and in those kind of washrooms, the design actually is very intensive, and there is a large vanity counter also required in all these places. So I think that answers your question that it depends on the retailer and within his space. If it's a very good F&B brand that we are talking about, he will plan a proper set of washrooms and they are well maintained and clean. In fact, as I said, as much care he will take to design the outer seating area, he will take the same care to design the washroom, because it's a very personalized space when you enter the washroom. So, as far as retail industry is concerned, it's at a very good level of providing
Mm.
these facilities for men as well as for women.
Okay. 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 So over to you, Yashvi. You mentioned about desk size, and so I'm coming to you with this tricky question. Let's talk
Yeah.
about call centers. Okay, so call centers, they can't really have a desk size which is 3 by 2 or 4 by 2. They have to have desk size which is 2 by 2. So here, still, how can we ensure that a bit of privacy is maintained, whereas the environment or the HVAC or the ventilation is taken care of? How can we bring about these elements in design?
Okay, so like you mentioned, the desk size needs to be 2 by 2. That
Yeah,
is fine considering the profession it is in. So a lot of times I feel we designers have to stop in front of our clients when they say no, we just
yeah.
need this much. So in those aspects, we come up with design thinking where instead of making like a chain of 10 desks which are side by side, we form small clusters of say four, and we leave some gap in
Hmm.
between so that you break
Interesting.
down the number but without compromising on the quantity that is required. So that is one aspect that could be followed, and of course we designers have been taught to think this way as to how to tackle all these problems, um, fit all these numbers into place without making it very claustrophobic, without compromising on the quality of the space. So these are some of the aspects that could be followed. And coming to HVAC, so there have been studies post COVID, a lot of studies that have come up that the air that is inside your office is
Hmm.
the quality of the air inside your office is worse than the quality of air that is outside,
Outside.
because most developers or most builders put up HVAC systems which are very standardized. They don't consider the amount of people who would be using it. So we
True.
have a concept of fresh air handling unit as well, where the inside air keeps regulating with fresh air after certain intervals. So it's a machine. It regulates depending
Hmm.
on as and when required. So such because we have technology, we should give importance to it. We should keep using these technologies for our benefit, where the air is purified all the time, because you're anyway spending say 9 to 10 hours at one place. So this is something, air is something you should not compromise on.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. Okay, so we are coming towards the end of our session. So my question here to all of you individually is that what are the challenges that you guys face as a designer when you are designing your space? So starting with Sangeeta ji.
Well, very honestly, our clients are all good clients, good companies, and so they are very pro any innovation, uh, subject to, of course, their requirement of number of staff is accommodated. So they
Hmm,
are very open for any kind of innovation, and they would like to provide as much as possible with our facilities and infrastructures and all. So we
hmm,
haven't faced the problem of very small office owners, compromising on tables and all these things. So that way, even in retail, all our clients are good, and they are. I mean, they want to just please the customer, be it a man or a woman.
okay.
So there, fortunately, we haven't faced the problem. But on behalf of the design industry, I would say the biggest problem is usually the client, you know, because they want to maximize their seating capacity,
Yeah.
and they feel अगर वहाँ पे एक common area दे दिया तो मेरा 2 सीट गया उसमें, so that is the tendency where we have to kind of uh, struggle. But fortunately for our clients, that is not the situation. But that, yes, we used to face it in the past, but
Hmm,
nowadays I think it's become very different. I think in also we are all from tier 1 city, so the way things work in tier 2, tier 3 are little different, where space is not such a big issue.
Yeah.
they have plenty of space. And if we take a stance of as a design community of I wouldn't call it educating exactly, but
Mm,
pointing out that this is a trend and this is the way if you plan your office, the women will be happier and they may stay long. And your aim should be that all the staff should stay for longest time, right, with you as an employer. So these are the few things if you do, the women employees at least will feel really great. And I think space is really not so much of an issue the way it is in tier 1 cities. So provided the space is there and it's not going to add too much of a capex, the clients also would be willing. It's just that designer community needs to include it, because when you get the design brief from the client in a tier 2 or tier 3, these may not be included in the brief. So you should actually add it and discuss it and share several examples with your client as how different companies are doing it. And then the client, why wouldn't they be happy to do it? Because it's really
mm.
on none of the things we talk are going to result into a very big capex for the tenant or for the developer.
Okay. Okay. Amritaji, what's your take?
I think Sangita has put it like beautifully. The major issue in any clientele designing is always going to be the brief which is given by the client. And
Yeah.
we do understand, we are sensitive towards the part that Bombay tier 1 cities, I think the infrastructure is extremely expensive compared to the other tier 2s and tier 3s. But
Right.
the least what we can do is educate them in a certain manner, by showing them the pros and cons and what can be the benefit of it, because they'll always do something which is always going to be beneficial for them. So
Mm,
it is important that we put it in a certain manner. Yes, we do have to struggle a lot to convince them to certain things, but I think that's a part of our job, because if certain things are uncomfortable, it's always going to be put into a manner that it was not designed to a correct aspect. It was not taken
okay.
in consideration. But of course, nobody thinks that the client's brief is in a certain manner. But yes, that's something which we have to be tactful enough. We have to make sure that we make it a point that some things cannot be compromised, and they should not be compromised. That's a stand I think we need to take. That is the least what we can do.
Okay. So Yashasvi, I would twist the question a bit for you. In terms of challenges, there are a bit more, trends coming in, the future trends or the new trends that you can say. How do you tackle these, and what are these trends that you can point out if you can help us understand some of these?
Yes. So, like both of them rightly mentioned, the clients have become bit more understanding. They have now started taking the advice of the designer. That if we are suggesting them something, it's of course with the backing of a lot of research, a lot of knowledge that we have put in. So that's a good point. And in terms of the trend, I think one trend that I keep seeing, and the way we are going forward, it's more towards human centric design, as to how we take into consideration of everybody, like all genders, all kinds
Mm,
of people, inclusivity, so that even if somebody is a handicapped person, how they are able to work in that environment. So human centric design is a very big aspect. And
mm,
I think post COVID, people have actually put a lot of effort into work life balance. So
yeah.
most office spaces are actually now designed in that way, where the office owners or the company owners themselves want to make sure that the work life balance aspect is maintained in the office, so that the employee stays longer. Because in this cutting edge competition, even for say IT industry or tech industry, people would just shift office if they are not satisfied with the space. And the space of the office plays a major role in that, because if your amenities, regular amenities, are not met via design, people will not be happy, they'll just move out. So I think human centric design is a trend. And everybody is putting a lot of effort into work life balance, healthy living. So like Sangeeta ji mentioned, and Amruta also mentions, they have seen gyms at certain places, at certain offices.
Hmm,
So
hmm,
in
hmm.
being from the real estate world, I would recommend that, when possible, something can be devised in a way that, if there are different floors in a building, one of the floor is a gym, so that all the office owners could use those amenities. So planning those amenities around, even crash. So BKC is a very good example. So immediately after BKC was developed, a lot of crash areas, play areas, play schools started springing up over there, so that it's catering to a need. So certain, of course, that happened a bit organically, but if it is thought of, I think we would move towards a very fruitful direction.
Cool. So I think that brings us to the end of our webinar, and I would like to thank individually. Thank you, Miss Sangeeta. Thank you, Miss Amruta. Thank you so much, Yashasvi, for sharing screen with me. This was really, really an insightful session, and the idea was to not only help the builders and the owners and the corporate designers understand the challenges, but also make women understand what their rights are, what should they expect inside their office spaces, and how they can help uh, guide their leaders to design their office spaces in a better manner for them. So I think we have justified the topic. Thanks to all three of you.
Thank you so much for bringing up this topic, because and that too on a great day. So it thanks to you.
Thank you, Rakesh ji. Really, I think for all the listeners and for all of us, from all of us, thanks to you.
Yes, same here. Thank you so much, Rakesh.
Thank you. It's an honor to share the screen with you. Thank you, and
It
have a
was,
great day.
yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye.
Sangeeta. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Amrita. Thank you, Samira ji.
Yes, thank you, everybody. Bye.
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 Okay, guys. So this was women-friendly workspace design, brought to you by Busy Talks. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I really, really hope that you would recommend this video to all your women colleagues out there. Please share the video, do subscribe, and do follow us on our social media. And we'll see you next time with another interesting topic. Till then, thank you so much. Have a pleasure evening, and happy Women's Day again. Bye.